our head coach of our local football program, Bronco Mental.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Play fake by McCamey. Looking downtown. Touchdown! Basket! .47 yards for the score.
Here's what they're in 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. And it's McCamey to basket. That's it. Now watch. Gordon does a pretty good job. He doesn't get his hands on him. He fell that little stutter. I like what he's doing, but he's got to keep his eyes on the receiver. As soon as his head...
2 backs and 2 tight ends. Play fake to Moore. Looking up top for basket. Got him behind his man. Flag down. The catch is good at the 1-yard line.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Hitting you with a triple hey there. How's everybody doing? My name's Ryan Tamori. Welcome to the Pit Press Live. Hope everybody is having a good week, staying warm. Busy show for you tonight. before I get to the usual suspects that will be joining us. Ed's on right now. Rick will be joining later. 8:15. He is, I'm going to give him his fancy name, Assistant Director of Athletic Performance, but you can just call him a strength and conditioning coach. His name is Mr. Matt Flores, or Matthew Flores. He's with the UNM men's basketball team. Happy to have him join us. We're working on a player. I'm headed out to the Garden State tomorrow for St. John's on Sunday and making a trip out of it. Going to go see Rutgers on Friday night. Very happy about that. Matt Flores from the UNM men's basketball team, the strength and conditioning coach at 8:15. 9-ish, Mr. Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. We'll talk all things Aggies men's basketball. I think the women's soccer team had some success. And then obviously football. We will get to what UNM did to Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and my Islanders in a moment. Let me thank our sponsors. Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Hydro Bar, Affordable Service, Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning, not to be confused with Affordable Solar. For your HVAC needs in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, Affordable Service has been in business in Albuquerque since 1986, and it is still locally owned. During this time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential, light, commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service takes pride in its staff commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. To the first usual suspect of the panel, he's a Lobo fan since 1970. Hey, feel free to join in on the conversation on YouTube, Twitter, as you guys did on Monday night or Monday afternoon. Tell me to go screw myself. Real original. He's the voice of the butchered it there, Ed. He's the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, a Lobo fan since 1970. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Ryan, and I do. That was unfortunate about the one comment, but I do want to say that we've got great listeners and great following that we've established, and we appreciate that. But I'm doing well. It was a great game last night, and my son and I were able to take that in and go to the presser afterward together. And I was telling Eric Moulton today, when I officiated the state tournament years ago, when Nick was 9. He sat on press row with me, and I really enjoyed the state high school basketball tournament. So reminiscing last night a little bit, and we were able to enjoy that together and then go to the press conference afterward. And we both got questions in for Coach Pitino. So really enjoyable experience last night.
This Texas A&M Corpus Christi team was a lot, I think, better than people realized. They gave Purdue a hard time the other night. And you were there, so I'll get your thoughts about it. But before we do that, I just want to quote Forrest Gump when he looks at Bubba's mom. Stupid is as stupid does, Miss Buford, as far as the comment goes. So UNM fends off the Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islanders last night in the pit. They dropped a centennial piece on him, 100-81. Donovan Dent did something that not many Lobos have done, and I don't care who you are or who you're playing. He had 25-point 10-assist game with no turnovers. It was the 5th 25-10 game in UNM history, the first since the only Kendall Williams. He had 29 and 10 against UAB. In the 2013 Charleston Classic, it was Dent's 3rd career 10-assist, no turnover game, setting a new UNM record and breaking the previous mark by 2, Marlon Palmer and Daryl McGee. Before we get to Matthew Flores, Ed, you were there in person. I opted not to go last night. I have been exhausted and a lot of traveling this week for me, which I have traveled, but not this much. What were your takeaways from the game?
You mentioned Texas A&M Corpus Christi came in. You mentioned they gave Purdue a hard time, and they started out pretty good. UNM hit them with the 26-5 blitz, and that was that. That really was that. Donovan Dent, you mentioned he had 9 turnovers on Friday night, 0 yesterday. A very efficient game again, getting into the paint, dishing it off, driving to the basket, pretty much doing whatever he wanted. The other thing was, and I think this was unexpected so soon in the season, was Cade Dotson. He came in and he hit 18 points off of the bench. CJ Nolan, they didn't get what they did from him Friday night and again in Las Vegas against UCLA. But Cade Dotson, when they went fast, they play fast, right? They speed, speed. Again, the points in transition, the rebounding, the running. Yes, so all of that. I was really impressed. Last year we talked about this, or last night on our group text. Last year they had Sebastian Forsling as a big off of the bench. Nothing against Forsling, great guy. He gave it all his effort. This year it's Tiki Ali Atiki, and he came in early for Nelly, who Nelly Jr. Joseph got in foul trouble. And, he's very impressive last night. 9 points and 5 rebounds and 5 block shots. So the rim protection was there. The athleticism was there. He can rim run. He can run rim to rim. And Donovan Dent found him for a couple of slams underneath. His post game is still developing, but what they needed him to do is what he did. So the rim protection off of the bench is there, and that's a great add in getting him. And we mentioned True Washington, a bounce back game. He didn't have a great shooting game in Las Vegas against UCLA, but he stole the ball and they converted off of his steals. And last night he comes through with 15 points. So Nelly was in foul trouble and he had 0 points deep into the second half. He still finished with 10 points and 9 rebounds. So I thought again the effort from so you're getting Sacco and Applehands. They've gotten minutes on Friday, and then last night they're taking advantage of their opportunities. I think with Applehands, I really like. He's aggressive when he's going in there. He's going to shoot. He's not afraid to shoot. And Sacco, when he's been in there, has contributed as well. He had 13 minutes last night, and Braden played 10 minutes. So I thought it was the guy I want to talk about a little bit about too and he's brought up in the press conference was Borovichian. Struggled a little bit, 0 for 5 last night. Jeff Grammer asked Coach Pitino about that, and he struggled. No points, gave up a couple of turnovers, wasn't strong with the ball when he got it. And Jeff asked Coach Pitino, and he said, he's struggling a little bit. He gets a little nervous playing in front of 11,000 fans. He hasn't played a lot. And this is just a comment. Look, I like the kid. I think he's got high IQ. He's longer, at the forward position. But if Cade Dotson or CJ Nolan keep playing like that, and Borovichian doesn't, you might see a lineup change, man. I mean, when they went small Friday again in Las Vegas against UCLA, it was Nolan. And last night, Cade Dotson. And if you look at him, Ryan, we saw him at the podium afterward. He doesn't have the body of a freshman. This kid has got some muscle on him for sure. And it was exciting to see him play. One of his shots that he banked in from 3, that's it's an unlikely 3, but that's the kind of night it was for him. So I thought it was a great win for New Mexico again. And Donovan Dent, I just want to mention this again. I mentioned this on a comment on New Mexico fans. We mentioned Petey Gibson and Daryl McGee and Phil Smith, Kelvin Scarborough, Greg Brown, and Derice Gary, and he absolutely belongs in that company. Now, my son made a good point, and I want to make sure I get this in for him. He's not on tonight. They didn't have a lot of rim protection. Texas A&M Corpus Christi didn't have a lot of rim protection. They tried to pick up Donovan Dent full court. That's not going to work. You got to try to slow him down. But if he gets past you and that's not working, they try to trap. That didn't work either. But my son made a good point, and the Texas A&M Corpus Christi had no rim protection. So he feels like he can drive to the basket whenever he wants and lay it up or dish it off. So you couldn't have asked for a better, efficient game from one of the best point guards in the nation with Donovan Dent. A really great effort last night. And I thought New Mexico, a convincing win. You might have thought there might have been a drop-off after UCLA, but it was a very convincing win.
Borovichian. I'll get you guys to say it. I thought it was Milicevic. Steve Kirkland corrected me. And thank you for those notes. It's not Milicevic. It's something Serbian where it's Borovichian and Mila. I don't know what it is. I don't want to butcher it. I sound like I don't know what I'm doing my job. So he's just Jovan for right now. Again, I thought it was Milicevic. It is not. Eric Markham, Philip is going to be good. I was happy with coach recognizing and making the minutes and adjustments. It was a game, and I don't want to steal Jeff and JJ's thunder from 610. Had to look up how many fouls total last night, 54 total fouls.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a minute too, but keep going.
It was a game nestled in between UCLA and St. John's. I thought they handled it well. They bounced back. They scored a lot. They covered, if you care about that. I was impressed. I'm impressed thus far, and as I've said for the naysayer on this show, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think they might be leaps and bounds better than the rest of the Mountain West. I think Nevada's good. USF bent over and spanked Boise State on Saturday night in San Francisco. The refs were so bad, one in particular. I really don't like to talk about the refs.
Let me do that in a minute.
Oh, go right ahead. It's all the platform is yours.
You go first. Keep going.
Oh no, I was done.
Okay, so I think I was sitting. Nick and I were sitting next to Adam Deal, man, and we had a great time sitting with Adam. Adam's my former colleague at ProView Networks, and him and I are still really good friends. And he said that in the second half of it's a slog. That's what I call it as an official. When I used to ref games like that, you're like, and some of those that had to be called. I understand people, from row 6, those are the greatest refs we have. Believe me, I know that, but I tell you, as a crew, I wonder how they were graded last night. And again, they're not going to lose their jobs. They're Mountain West Conference referees at the college level for a reason. So no, they're not going to get fired. No, they're not going back to Kitty League, anything like that. So I just kind of wonder, though, how they were graded, because they get graded. Believe me, after the game, they've got to go watch tape. And, they've got to work on getting better. But gosh, man, 53, there's no flow to a game like that. Maybe sometimes a couple of plays, I said this to my son, one play in particular, there's a minimal contact. The ball goes out of bounds. So just let them have the ball back. The ref came up at the college level with a foul. And all it's going to be is their ball anyway. Don't stick them with the foul. Let that one go. That's just my opinion. And I remember one of my friends, Mike Kleppel, when I was officiating a game years ago, he said that to me. He goes, you just stuck that guy with his third foul. Minimal contact. They got the ball back anyway. Always stuck in my head after that. There's, the referees have to learn too, and they will. But man, that game last night was a slog, a lot of slowdowns, a lot of free throws. You don't want to see that. So hopefully in New York they get a better, a better, more fluid game without all the whistles, because St. John's likes to press. They like a lot of hands in the passing lanes, deflections. They play a lot like New Mexico does. So you just want to see a better quality officiated game. I hate to fall down on any refs, man. I really do. I know that they make mistakes. I was one of them. I made a lot of them. I missed calls. I didn't try to do it on purpose. But that last night's game was a lot of fouls, a slog, man. A foul fest. And so some of them they definitely could have let go. And they'll be graded on that. And let's see how they improve from game to game.
The one thing I always think of is the New Orleans no call, where the NFC title game, where it was clearly pass interference and then a helmet-to-helmet hit. I don't remember what the rule was back in January of 2019. I thought the no face mask call about 2-3 weeks ago was a pure pile of, to quote Jeff Goldblum, a big pile of shit on Sam Darnold. That was really bad. I think of everybody, I liked the New England Patriots dynasty. I liked Brady, except for 2 days out of that entire thing. And the Chiefs get a lot of, and I know I'm talking football here, but you get a lot of love. I mean, you go back to that AFC title game 2 years ago and everybody was like, oh, Kansas City cheated. Last I checked, Joe Burrow, the refs didn't throw 2 interceptions. Joe Burrow did. Greg Lujan I love Jared Goff. I love Sean McVay. I think that's the biggest crime known to man. That was so bad and ended up giving us probably the worst Super Bowl in history. Are their grades public? Ed, I don't think so. I don't know that. I was going to say they're probably not. It's got to be an internal thing.
Okay, but remember, Ryan, we sat down with the commissioner of officials in Las Vegas.
I was going to bring that up. We talked to Mike DeFee, who is the football. We didn't post his interview. He is phenomenal. He reffed the 2017 national championship game between Clemson and Alabama. Ed, your thought before we get to Matt.
Well, just real quick. I mean, he mentioned the grading periods they go through. They're not going to make those public. There's no way that if that was online, you can imagine, people in the stands saying you got a F, D minus. That they're not going to make them public. There's no way. But they do. And I think the commissioner mentioned they had to fire a couple of officials when he told us there are some officials that didn't make the grade and were not asked to come back the next season. That happens. So it is what it is. I hate even saying that. That's one of those sayings that everybody seems to wear out, but that's the way it is. So hopefully those officials last night will be great. We had Billy Gracie on last year. The guy, yeah. So and Billy kind of told us how things. We can bring him back on. Bill's a great guy. I love Bill. So that's the way it goes. But you know what, Ryan? I've played, I've coached, I've officiated. I hate to be the one to say, you know what, the refs lost us that game. Hey man, make your free throws, turn the ball over less. Hey, don't leave it in the referee's hands. Control what you can control. I've always said that. That's
the whole Joe Burrow argument, and I have no ties to Cincinnati or Kansas City. All right, we're going to go to our next guest, and I'm very, 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 very happy to have this gentleman on. I'm sure I annoyed the living piss out of him on the airplane the other day on Saturday morning. His name is Matt Flores, and he is your strength and conditioning coach for your UNM men's basketball team, or if I want to be super proper about it, assistant director of athletic performance. Matt, I know I just bugged you on Saturday, and I bugged Steve, but I got to be quite honest, man. Pleasure to meet you, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah. No, can you guys hear me, right?
Yes, we can. We can.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. Thank you guys for having me on. And no, you did not bug me. I mean, I appreciate the acknowledgement, I guess,
Well, I don't like to fly, and I'm doing it tomorrow. And the guy to my right, God bless his soul, right before we took off in Vegas, he was going like this, and I was like, dude, God, I'm not a mean guy. I was just like, can you please leave me alone? And that's the PG version. You are right. You, sir. Yeah, I didn't want you to look back and be like, geez, this guy's a nervous wreck. Wait till you see me tomorrow. Wait till you see me on the way tomorrow morning to Atlanta. Anyway, you served, and that's the end of my comedy hour. You served in the Marine Corps, so this is perfect. Thank you for your service and happy Veterans Day. Can you talk about what you did in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so I served from 2001 to 2006, just stationed in K-Bay, Hawaii, Combat Service Support Group 3. Super excited just to bring everything that they taught me over those 5 years just to the guys and the team. And, I appreciate, everybody, thanking me for my service. But I mean, to be honest with you, this is a good platform just to say, hey, that's, I just joined just to kind of family tradition and just to kind of serve my country. And, I appreciate everybody thanking me. And, it is what it is.
You sound like a Marine. It's like I just was doing what I was told. Before I guess maybe before or during, I was a bumbling drunk sports writer. I also got a degree in history with a concentration in United States history, post-Civil War on, and I wrote my dissertation at UNM on the Marine Corps. So I am not military. I am not military material, but I read a lot of books on the Marines that served in the Pacific Theater during the war. So much love to you guys.
You're a big Chesty Puller fan, huh?
I am a Chesty Puller fan.
Yeah.
God bless him. God bless him. Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I was saying learn a lot about him. He's definitely somebody to idolize for sure.
So I got roots. I'm going to actually eventually ask you questions, Matt, but
no, it's all right.
If you ever watch The Pacific, which, I read more on that, but that HBO miniseries, and John Basilone is from Raritan, New Jersey. My family's from New Jersey. He is still a hero in Bayonne, New Jersey. They still have a parade for him every year. So Robert Leckie, I read that book. It's called Helmet for My Pillow. He wrote a million books. Fascinating guy. And then he was a Jersey guy and he was an AP sports writer. So he's up my alley. I loved him.
That's right. He was, wasn't he?
Yes, sir.
I forgot all about that. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure it's a busy time of year for you, but definitely check out if it's on Netflix. Rewatch The Pacific. You are from Minneapolis, Minnesota. How does the cold weather compare from here to Minneapolis?
Oh man, I love it down here. People ask me all the time. Ironically, I just had a little checkup at the VA hospital, and I was walking around with shorts, and I had just like a light t-shirt on, and they were like, like, oh, I know you're not from here. Like, I was like, I'm just not cold yet, you know, like it takes me a while to get cold. So, you know, I definitely appreciate the Albuquerque weather. I got to tell you that right now. Cause man, for something about, I don't know just what it is. I still land in Minneapolis. It could be August and I'm like, ugh. So, you know, I definitely appreciate the high desert here for sure.
How did you end up in strength and conditioning, or again, you know, becoming somebody who works with college athletes and I guess enhancing their athletic performance? How did you fall into that career?
Well, it's funny enough, the Marine Corps, to be honest with you, when I was in high school, I was one of those guys who just really didn't have the maturity to develop, you know, and I really just kind of I didn't want to say skip things, but I did the bare minimum, to be honest with you. And it pretty much led me nowhere, you know, like that's just not a recipe to follow it. And, you know, I went to the school of hard knocks and I didn't have any stars after my name. And I really didn't get recruited for anything. And I was playing hard and doing all those things, but, and I wasn't excelling at the sports I was playing and the things I was doing. And I still wanted a challenge in my life. So I joined the Marines and, you know, this is before September 11th. So, you know, I thought it was going to be all about the girls and, you know, the cool uniforms and stuff like that. But, you know, serving in Iraq and various other theaters, like it really just helped me to see how development can help me in real time. Like it really pushed me to push myself. And obviously it's a, you know, real serious situation we're walking into. So obviously we had to be, you know, in the best you know, have the best performance possible. And, you know, I was kind of seeing the changes that were happening to me and I was like, oh wow, this really does work. You know, all the preaching my dad was doing all those years, like, you know, it's like, no son, you know, you gotta keep going on this. And I'm like, wow, you know, my dad was really right. And so, you know, they're showing me in the core, you know, that I can go beyond and beyond and beyond and continue to push myself to get better and better and better and better. And so when I got out, um you know, I wanted to go back to school and I was going to go into law enforcement, but I was speaking with this professor. I was like, exercise science. I was like, you can go to school for that? Like, and then he just happened to tell me who he was and what he taught. And I was like, so you learn about exercise? And he was like, yeah, like he's like, there's a lot of things you can do with it. And he told me that he was with the Spurs for a while. And I was like, no way. And so I just took I guess, you know, like the fortitude and the passion, and I just put it towards exercise science, you know, in a academic setting. And I just forged those two together. And after a few years, you know, found my calling in collegiate athletics and the rest is history.
Ed, before I ask any other questions, Matt, this is Ed Nunez. Do you have any questions, Ed?
Oh, I got plenty. You know, Matt's strength and conditioning training for basketball. You know, I played a long time ago, and back then they didn't want basketball players in particular, to lift weights, and that's changed a whole bunch. You know, I cover high school sports and college sports at Western New Mexico, and I'm going to say this: there's only one coach I know. I don't even want to say who it is. He's a very good friend of mine that doesn't have a strength and conditioning program, and it kind of surprised me in this day and age. So, talk a little bit about you know, what kind of training for basketball. You know, you're not going to, it's a different kind of basketball weight training that you do for basketball, explosiveness, plyometrics, stuff like that. Talk a little bit about it, because, you know, somebody made a comment. Nelly's a beast, man. He's here lifting weights, right? He's holding his position, and that's a lot to do with strength. Donnie looks great taking that contact, and you're going to get a lot of bumps, a lot of chips. You got to be able to take that, absorb the contact, and keep going, and hold your ground. Talk a little bit about the training that you're doing with this year's team.
Right, absolutely. I think people really get the misconception that training basketball players is either similar to what they do for football and that side of things, or B, I get a lot of questions about like things that you would see at Gold's Gym that somebody saw on YouTube. And like, neither one of those really apply to us, to be honest with you. And Nelly might look like that now, but I can guarantee you it's a lot more. I dare I say the word functional, but I
Right.
mean it what we do is pretty much based on position. And yeah, there's a reward of them looking a little bit more jacked and that kind of situation that I absolutely love because it definitely gives me a little bit more credit. But I mean, I'm looking at each body type, I'm looking at each position. I want Donnie to be able to move a little bit better laterally and, like we said, absorb contact because, he's a drive first guy. If he doesn't have that pass, he's going to go up on these guys and, he's going to have to make sure that he can stay balanced and finish and those kinds of things. So, we work on those kind of drills specifically. Nelly introduced him to kind of more of an Olympic lifting based program. Like he's got a lot of cleans in his program. He's very good at them. And so that's why just that absorption of getting into those positions and moving that mass out of that hole is really going to help him and has helped him. So we're not just getting into the gym and, trying, let's go work on some biceps and, just work on your bench press and those kinds of things. Like we need their first step quickness to be developed. We need their lateral quickness to be developed. And it's not just their, one step vertical or their 3-step vertical. There's amazing things that you can do in just a short amount of space that's going to absolutely translate to the court. And it's all position based, to be honest with you. So like we divide it up pretty well. I mean, the wings have their specific program. The point guards and maybe the twos, depending on body type, are going to be in that category. And then our big boys are going to be in that category where we kind of chop those programs up and dose it out a little bit differently. And they, they roll with it from there.
Yeah, big's got to be a little bit different because they got to battle inside, and I know Nelly is a beast, but it's basketball. It's not Arnold Schwarzenegger on the gym or Goldsville, the beach, Laguna Beach, or whatever. I get that. I get it, but I got to ask you this too because iron sharpens iron, man. And when a team is winning, and they've had some good victories. Last night was a wire to wire, convincing, really was.
Right.
They're going to St. John's. So what kind of attitude do they have in the weight room? I'm imagining they're getting after it. You don't have to convince them too much because minutes here on this team, they've got depth. So if you're not working, you may not play, man. So talk a little bit about their attitude and the way they're approaching. I can only imagine. I've been around teams, I've coached, I can only imagine. But talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I gotta tell you guys, I'm not going anywhere. Like Coach P's not going anywhere. Like we got a good thing going here, and like what I love working about Coach Pitino is like the guys are motivated because Coach P is motivated, and like he's checking in with me constantly, he's checking in with the guys constantly, like the lifts, and like he wants those feedback. And when they see that the staff is involved and ultimately Coach P is driving the bus too, like it makes my job so much easier because it's a culture that's built. And what like you said, iron sharpens iron, and the winning breeds just that hungry culture. And I know the staff and Coach P have really just put it down like, hey, we have a standard now. Like we hosted one trophy, now we need to be raising a whole bunch more. And we need to work to get there because everyone's going to be giving us their best shot. And the guys have responded. And it's just really been great to see because once again, like I said, their motivation makes my job a lot easier because I mean, the most simplest, prehab rehab exercise, I mean, they're going 100 miles an hour at it. And I might be just doing it to help their shoulder stability, but they're really taking it seriously. The guys have, I mean, from June till now have put in an amazing amount of work. I mean, True Washington, you can see how he's filled out a whole lot. Like he's just really developed his game and his body. And I mean, it's just when you have guys like that have tasted success and now they want more of it. Like I mean, really all I need to do is just put it on paper, hand it to them. I don't have to make any speeches. I don't have to do anything like that. And I absolutely love it. So, they want to get back there in March because that loss to Clemson was really, really, really just prevalent in everybody's face. And all off season, guys like Phillip and guys like CJ have come in from other places, and they're hungry to raise their profile as well. And so they just kind of blended in. And I love CJ Nolan. He's been in the weight room, I mean, just killing it. So it just makes my job a lot easier just to put the exercises together for them in the best way possible, and just kind of basically cut the leash, because then they just go after it. I mean, look at Nelly. I barely have to say anything to Nelly, to be honest with you. I just kind of stand back and I just kind of point, and he just, all of a sudden his hair is just back and he is just going to it. So it's just, I'm ready to go right now. I'm motivated because they work.
You see the results. You see the results.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I was, I always tell Ryan, I'm a fan since 70, man. I've been, local fan since 70, so I've seen it. And when you see the results like that, you want to work harder. You want to get in there. I got to ask you about this. Kay Dotson, last night, big game. That guy he don't look like a freshman. He doesn't. I mean, guy's solid. Has he been putting a lot of work in? And he's only going to get. He's solid already as far as his body. That's not a freshman body.
No,
talk a little bit about his work.
Came in at 179. He came in at 179 at 10% body fat. He's now at 194, same body fat percentage. And so, I mean, Cade is a coach's son. So he's coming in ultra fired up, and he wanted to get as many minutes as he could as a freshman. That's what he said walking in the door. He's like, I'm coming here to play. I'm not coming here to sit. And he goes, I will do whatever it takes. He got on the creatine and he put his diet together, and he worked with our nutritionist, Jessica Brown, and they went to it. And we just started working as hard as we can, getting his strength base up, because he, as a freshman, when he was coming in with not the most sound program, his baseline strength level wasn't as high as it should have been, but his physical abilities. And so we raised the roof on that pretty well, and his body just took off from there. And so now, he's got the first step quickness with the strength behind it. So yeah, he's a little freight train coming down the lane there, and I'm really excited to see where he takes it from here.
That dude is yoked, man. A couple more questions. I'll turn it over to Ryan. But talk about, Coach, nutrition plays a big part. You can't out-train a bad diet.
100%.
You can't. My friend always tells me that. He's a big advocate of that. He's been working with weights for a long, long time. Talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for sure. And it's we are absolutely blessed to have the leadership that we do, because I mean, they see nutrition as a priority as well. Coach Patino, the staff, everybody is just saying hey, we need to feed these guys, and whatever. And then pairing up with our nutritionist, Jessica Brown, has been an amazing situation as well, because she's come in, give the guys their specific nutrition plans, and then we go out into the community, parlay with the restaurants, and then they bring in the food for the guys. So just to have their daily intake of calories kind of zoned into them has been absolutely a game changer for us. And we're seeing the results. I mean, so just the little pieces that they added, since Coach Patino got here with just this nutritionist, stepping in, once you have those things dialed in and the calories dialed in the right way, I mean, there's nothing stopping you from getting the results that you want, truly. And look at Cade. We just mentioned Cade, and his whole thing was he needed to branch out into his nutrition a little bit more. He needed to up his protein intake, his healthy fat intake. And once he started doing those things on top of getting on creatine in the water and getting the sleep, combined with all those, I mean, just the weight started falling for him. I mean, his body fat percentage and then his absolute strength started going up, and he just started becoming a monster. So he was very surprised. His family was very surprised as to how quickly those things came on. And I said, hey, your nutrition plays a big part of it, and look what it's done for him. So as long as you have your nutrition dialed in pretty well and you give a consistent effort, you're going to do well.
Sounds like these players are all hitting their goals, Coach. The way you're making it sound, and they want to. It's not like you're having to pull teeth to say, get in here. Sounds like they're doing a lot of that They're hungry. They want to win. It's a culture. You mentioned that.
100%. Yeah. Coach Pitino sets the bar, and we're all getting up there to it. So I'm absolutely excited because I mean, just the look in their eyes, when we got to Vegas, like just the other day, you know, we weren't there to party, and just to look them getting off the bus and back on the bus. I mean, it was just that focus. And I had, saw that focus in Vegas last time, when we were raising up that trophy. So, I mean, I was really excited to play UCLA because I knew we were going to give them hell, and we did. So, once we get these pieces together, like we talked about the nutrition and, getting these guys into that right culture, like Coach P's setting, like we're getting to the right spot.
Love it. Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry about that. I just had a lot of questions for him. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. We're joined by Matt Flores, which is my middle name, so it's a good name. Matt Flores, the strength and conditioning coach at UNM men's basketball. Just a few more questions. I can't thank you enough for joining us and taking time out of a busy week and a Friday night. Not a Friday night. Wednesday. Well, I don't even know what day it is. Wednesday night. What's very funny is I didn't go to Vegas to party because once the game was over, I Ubered back to my hotel in the Strip and went to bed. So those days are those days of killing my liver are long gone. You just mentioned going to Vegas, getting as the strength and conditioning coach, turning around, flying only back an hour. You've got about 48, 72 hours. Well, you got another game. You played it. Now you travel to the East Coast. You guys are probably flying out Friday. How do you approach that kind of grueling schedule? This isn't football where it's once a week. It's not even baseball where it's daily. College basketball is a little unique. The NBA is a little unique with how they play. How do you approach it with these players?
Right. Yeah, that's some seriously careful planning. I ain't gonna lie. You want to look at their stress, and it really is all about stress. So we played Tuesday, had today off. A lot of the guys got in with the athletic trainer Grant Smith, and they were doing a lot of recovery things. Red shirts came to me. They're getting the lifts in. Guys got individual shots up, really not trying to overwork their bodies, because we know that not only does there need to be really hard work, but there also needs to be great rest and recovery, because if you grind, I mean, you turn into dust. I mean, that's just really what it is. So we need to be smart about what their stress from the week looks like. And do we need a little bit more recovery modalities today because they're just completely beat up? And so we kind of balance it out that way at this time of year where the schedule just gets completely crazy. The travel gets crazy. And so as long as we have that good cohesive unit between myself, the staff, Grant Smith, the trainer, like we definitely put them in a good situation where they're not going to be overused or overworked to the point where they're just tired, where you see their strength down and their vert down and their speed down. And so you really try to balance that out. And it really is kind of walking on eggshells, to be honest with you. But I think like we've all got experience, and so it's gone pretty well. So to answer that question about the East Coast, yeah, that's it's daunting for sure. But once we get into New York and we get into the hotel, we're gonna definitely dial into the guys individually of what we have for them as a plan in terms of recovery. Do we need to, it might be something as simple as just getting them through a stretch routine or foam rolling, or, hey, making sure that they get to bed on time, because obviously sleep is going to be a huge factor in our performance. So we want to make sure that we're educating them on the importance of sleep, like we always do. They think I'm pretty annoying when I talk about sleep, but they don't understand how important that is. Coach Flores is talking again about sleep, but hey, this is a big situation. And so I'll remind them again. And we have a plan for each individual person and how it affects their performance. And we're going to definitely run with that when we get to New York to make sure that we are dialing into the time change and the flights and the whole deal. So we'll make sure that we get with them on that.
I don't refer to her as my girlfriend, but she's the ball and chain. She's in Australia. And that was a 14-hour flight. That was a 14-hour flight. And I've grown up flying in and out of Newark, and I'm doing it again tomorrow a million times. And it's not 14 hours, but it's a day and it sucks. And It's beautiful. I know where you guys are flying into, but it's beautiful, Newark, New Jersey. You have to have been there. It's a joke. I have to ask you this. You came from Utah Valley. I think at the time it was Utah Valley State, but Utah Valley, the Wolverines, you were under Mark Mad Dog Madsen, right?
Love that guy. Love that guy. Yes, that's my man. That's my man. Coach Madsen. I love that guy. He's the best.
We had the pleasure of having him on when we were just a podcast, not live, right before that NIT game last year. Did he have any? He got on the phone with me before we went on the record, and he was just chirping, and he had stories of, obviously, I mean, the guy's been in a Final Four. He played for the Lakers. He won titles.
Oh,
he knew. Is there any story that he had that you can relate that he told you?
No, I mean, did he have any stories? No, he doesn't have any crazy stories. I mean, he's the most humble guy you will ever meet in your entire life. Like he's such a down to earth, kind person that you just expect him to come out and just, Kobe this, and I was standing looking down right at Iverson stepping over Ty Lue and this and that. I mean, he's in part of all these iconic moments, the dancing, like he doesn't even want to talk about the dancing like at all. Like, because if somebody was dancing or something in the area, we'd all be like, what's that? How's that, coach? How's that compare? And he would just start laughing and wave us off or something, but he's such a nice guy. And he's so funny because it's like, he's so kind when he's over here, but the second he steps in bounds on that court as a coach, as a player, like he's Mad Dog. Like he just starts going nuts, like over here, and you're just like, wait, who is that guy? So, I mean, I wish I had a bunch of stories for you, but I mean, just the shock and awe of him seeing Iverson step over Ty Lue was, crazy to hear, but I mean, just no shocking stories to come to mind.
He was when we had him on the show, he was one of the nicest guys I haven't interviewed a million people doing this in my journalism career. He's up there. He was an awesome guy. He is awesome Matt Flores. Yeah, this is Matt Flores, the strength and conditioning coach for your UNM men's basketball team. Last question for you. When you came to Albuquerque and you walked in the pit, what kind of arena? I mean, how do you describe it?
Oh, because you hear about it. I mean, I had heard about it, my whole life, and so like, oh, it's such a crazy place to play. And the Houston winning it down there, or no, not Houston, it was NC State winning it in the pit, the championship. And so it's such an iconic building. And so when I got the call from Coach Pitino to come down, I mean, that's the first place I wanted to go. I wanted to see the pit because, they were saying how crazy it gets and everything. And to be honest with you, I mean, it absolutely lives up to every bit of the hype. I mean, just when we were sold out against San Diego State last year, I mean, I couldn't hear a daggone thing. Like it was, I mean, the ringing in my ears was so crazy. I mean, I have, issues from the Marines ringing in my ears, and this thing was on 10. Like I loved it because, I mean, that's just such an advantage to our guys, and they know it. Like they love playing in front of all the fans because, I mean, it just gives that energy. So when we start walking down that ramp, I mean, you can just see the hearts beating out of their chest because they know what we're walking into, and they absolutely love it. And so, it's great to be back in basketball season again. And I mean, I just can't, I'm just the luckiest guy in the world.
His name is Matt Flores. He is the strength and conditioning coach for your UNM men's basketball team. Once again, I don't care what you say. Thank you for your service. And I appreciate you spending about a half an hour with us tonight, man. You don't know what it means. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate this so much.
Safe travels, and I'll say what's up to you, New York. Have a good one, man.
Absolutely. Take care of yourselves, guys.
That was Matt Flores. He is the strength and conditioning coach of the UNM men's basketball team. Ed, you joined the conversation, and Ricky's here.
Richard.
Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, guys. Great conversation with Coach there. I was listening along. What a journey he's had, and all the athletes, whose journey he's been a part of. Really, really cool to hear, and just fired up, to hear all the work he's done. And that was a great question about Cade Dotson, because when I'm watching him in that press conference last night, I'm saying, my God, what did this guy do over the summer? Like, he did not look like that in any of the film or photos that I had seen of him in high school. He's sitting up there. His shoulders almost look like Nelly.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, his shot was as smooth as ever. I think he might have the best technically sound shot on the team, so to be able to keep your shooting form in your game while putting on that much muscle in that short amount of time, that kid is going to be a weapon. And hats off to Coach Flores and the whole team for doing the work with him. Because, man.
Remember in Vegas when I admired Nate Clifford's NBA body at Colorado State, and he looked at me like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? I mean, I just was like, you got an NBA body, dude. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm never going to let that joke die, making fun of myself. I was originally supposed to leave on Saturday, flying back to Albuquerque at 8 a.m. And because of the game and the time change, I booked my flight. And I happened to be on the flight with a bunch of Lobo fans, the team, Jeff. And I, again, once special thanks to Steve Kirkland from the UNM men's basketball SID. He hooked us up with that interview. We're trying to get a player on next week. I might ask for Coach Patino. I don't know. It'd probably be a no. But if we can get somebody like Nolan or Dotson on, that'd be great. But moral of that story is, I'm looking at these guys and I really haven't gotten an up close view of this team. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, these guys are pretty bulky. Like they look, I mean, CJ Nolan seems like a tank. Cade Dotson is big, and you said his technique is fantastic. And I just happened to get a seat right behind Coach Matt Flores there. And I was like, do you want to join our show? And he was like, yeah, totally. So I really appreciate him. Rick, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, Washington looks noticeably stronger. Of course, we talked to Dent and Vegas ourselves, and he mentioned the strength that he put on with Coach Flores. And then you look at the freshmen, not only Dodson, but then Jovan, he's a monster. He might have the biggest legs on the team, and I hope, his foot's okay. It looked like he might have turned his ankle or something last night, but I agree with you, Ryan. Across the board, this is a strong and longer team, and they're going to need it against St. John's because that's a much more physical team than ones they've faced so far.
They play a different style of ball back east. We know that, a lot more physical. So, but I think New Mexico's strength and Matt Flores' work. Remember, he's an ex-Marine too, so he's got that thing about him. You have to look at him with the work ethic and what he did in the armed, in the service, in the military service. So I think there's a lot of respect from the team. They're hitting their goals, and I think when you're winning and you're building a culture, you beat UCLA in Las Vegas, and then you come home with a convincing win. Everybody's buying in. They're like, okay, if I don't put in the work, I may not play. What did Cade Dotson say? Cade Dotson said, I want to play. I'm not coming here to sit. And my son and I, we're looking at the press conference last night, like, gosh, man, this guy's put together, and not a freshman body at all. So I think it's good for the program. And there's that competition. And Rick, you've been on teams, man, when people compete with each other. I competed, whatever I did. If I was playing basketball, if I was a referee, as an announcer, there's that competitive spirit. And so when a team is winning and they're coming off and they're going to St. John's to play the 22nd ranked team at Madison Square Garden, everybody's dialed in. That's what I saw last night with their victory. They hit 100 points last night, and they were efficient. The way they run the basketball and score in transition is something to really watch and enjoy. So this is a basketball team and a culture trying to build that foundation, trying to make it stick. It's not enough to win the Mountain West tournament and go to the NCAA dance. Got to win. What did Coach Patino say? We got to win a couple games in the tournament when we get in. So that's what they're building. And tell you what, really enjoyed Matt Flores. I really did. The guys are in good hands with him. And, as we mentioned, hitting all their nutrition strength goals. So he was an enjoyable interview. He really was.
Happy to have him on. I could probably use some of his training since I'm a fat piece of shit now. Any other final thoughts? And I might get to the comments very quickly on Matt Flores. Again, I'm throwing this out there. You look, this is what we wanted the show to be. This is what I want the show to be. Yeah, I'd like to get Patino on. Bronco Mendenhall's probably not going to happen. And that's okay. We might bug a football player maybe after the season's over. But I think I always tell this story from a journalism perspective, and I'll make it quick. I had the luxury of covering Mike Locksley, and that turned into a shit show. And it was why do you want to talk to us? And everything was bad. Alfred was good, a lot of press there, and you get those. And Joe Franklin had the cross country and track and field team. Top 25 in the nation. They were winning Mountain West Conference championships. I always say this. I like talking to those guys. And this is how I met Grant Harvey, who was a hockey player for the UNM club hockey team. Well, I need to get some of those guys on. Grant and his dad and some of the hockey players, because they didn't get that publicity and they were winning, were some of the best people I talked to. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I follow this team. I didn't know who Matt was until the other day, and now I do, and now I'm glad I do. And now you get a face to who is responsible for these guys' training, nutrition. That's part of the journalism thing. So very quickly, I'm happy that we got him on, because I just felt his energy when I met him after the game on Friday night and talking to him briefly on the plane. He was awesome, but I was really happy for that. Ed, I know you got to jump off after this. I wanted to get your thoughts. If you watched a little bit of St. John's tonight, they beat Wagner 66-45. It was kind of a game that was, I had it on because I watch Big East basketball in general. But it was like da-da. They have some pretty good players. Devion Smith transferred from Utah. If you didn't watch him last year, I wish Neff was on, but I can account for it. Very speedy point guard, very quick. I think you had mentioned you saw a little bit of the St. John's game tonight. What did you think?
Yeah, one thing I noticed is they were forcing who was the Wagner, right? They played Wagner?
It was Wagner.
I noticed it a couple of times, and I think Rick mentioned it too. St. John's defense forced Wagner deep in the clock with some shots that, when you're forcing up a shot at the 35-second clock, they weren't good. So I thought their D, they're long, they're lengthy, they like to run. They're going to press. They're going to press. They press after a made basket, and so far, even the UCLA press, Donovan Dent, to slice that up. He's sliced up any press so far. So so I saw a team that has some athletes. I didn't get to watch the second half. My wife and I went out to dinner, but I was impressed with what I saw, but I didn't see the second half. But just the 10 minutes I saw, I think they've got some athletes, and they run. They like to press. But it's going to be a test for sure. New Mexico. And again, you mentioned this too, Ryan. It's a change in time zone. They're traveling to New York, playing at Madison Square Garden. That's the Mecca. How will New Mexico handle that kind of atmosphere? So it's going to be, I think, a great challenge for UNM. And I got to say one more thing. Coach Patino was asked last night about his dad. And trying to downplay it. It's just this and that. It's just another game. And all due respect, Coach Patino is a great guy. That's bullshit. Sorry, I never usually cuss. That's the first time I think I've ever cussed on this show.
That's okay.
I apologize. I never do, but that's his dad. That's his father, and he's measured against that. His dad, the former Kentucky, Louisville, New York Knicks coach. That's your dad, man. So him saying that, and then Jack, his son, where's his loyalties? He's going to wear a half UNM, half St. John's shirt. And, his son Jack is a riot. I love to watch that young man. So it's way more than just it's another game. I don't buy that at all. No, with all due respect to Coach Patino, he's got to play it down and not make it about his father. But believe me, it is. He wants to beat him. Of course he wants to beat him. And if he doesn't, they move on. They're still trying to build a foundation. The season won't be over. But that was some of the thoughts I had about that.
Ed, I know you got to hop off. Thanks for joining.
You bet, man. Take care, Rick.
And I'm going to throw it over to Rick. But if you don't know where Wagner is, Staten, Italy, Staten Island. Not now, Chief. I'm in the fucking zone. Rick, your thoughts?
I'm also in the zone, and I just wanted to keep going off what Ed was saying. I think one thing we saw with UCLA, well, they might be as talented and they might look the same. One thing they didn't really have at all was the chemistry that New Mexico has, with, 4 key players coming back for the Lobos. You could really see they know their timing, the spots they're going to be, where they want to be, and the shots for the most part they should be taking. Some of the new guys are still taking some shots that I don't agree with, but when you saw UCLA, they don't have that chemistry. They don't know where the man's going to be. They're still figuring it out. And when I was watching St. John's a little bit this afternoon, I kind of saw the same thing. I mean, with 10 minutes left in the game, St. John's only had 39 points. This is not a high-powered offense right now. In my eyes, that's going to score a lot unless they somehow force a lot of turnovers. So I think St. John's is going to try to slow New Mexico down. I don't know how you do that. I think New Mexico is still rated the fastest team, if not one of the fastest in the country. I think they're averaging around 87 points a game so far. And like Ed said, it's very tough to put a full court press on Dent. So I don't know if they'll do that, but I do know that their defense is kind of going to be similar to UTEP's, very physical, probably a lot of fouls as we saw last game, and that kind of chops up the game. And I think one thing that Lobos can't really afford to happen is to have Nelly get into foul trouble, because St. John's has 2 guys really battling for those center minutes right now, one being Zubi Ajiafor. So they have 2 guys battling for the center spot. The Lobos have this solidified center, but as we saw, Nelly can pick up fouls in a hurry. Atiki did a great job, in my eyes, stepping in. Another physical specimen that Matt Flores has to work with. He's, 7 foot tall and has an over 40-inch vertical, and we saw some of that on display last night. So I'm looking forward to the game. I think it will be a greater challenge than UCLA, but I think UNM really has the better chemistry, and they're flowing right now. And these teams that have 4 or 5 transfers coming into the starting lineup, it's really hard to figure out the other guy's game, when you're playing another top-notch team, and the level of competition is so high. So I couldn't agree with Ed more. It's going to be tough, but I think the Lobos can hang in there for sure. What are you feeling, Ryan, a few days out?
I'm torn, and I always John Kerry it on here. I think traveling, and that's why I asked Matt Flores that, traveling and going to the East Coast, sometimes East Coast teams coming this way, is not the easiest thing. I think they're probably flying out Saturday. I could be wrong. They could be flying out Friday evening.
I think he said Friday when you
Friday, yeah, probably makes things easier. That's a quick turnaround when you fly out on Saturday and you're playing at essentially 10 a.m. Mountain Time, noon Eastern. I think they're up for it. I haven't, as I've said, and I am repeating myself, I'm usually devil's advocate, objective. I was really impressed Friday night in Vegas in person. And I had to ask you guys, did it look as good as it did on TV? Because I always mention that on here. They Mike Tyson them. UCLA looked like they had a plan, then they got punched right in the mouth, which, hey, Friday night, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, Netflix. Yeah. I think that they're going to hang. I don't know if this is necessarily a game they can win. It's not their job to care what I say. It might be their job to shut me up. I think that they don't care what I say, but I think that they can make this hang. There's just more to this, to, like Ed just said, it's bullshit. There's more to this. This is father versus son. I get the love of sports from my mom. My dad taught me how to play checkers and chess, and I wanted to be my dad at checkers and chess, even though I still loved him. I think there's that kind of sense. It's your old man. I'm not going down that alley. I haven't had the luxury of talking to my dad for 20 years. Rick, you have your dad. I can't imagine coaching a Division I basketball game in Madison Square Garden against your dad. I think the team will be up for it. I think that they know it's father versus son. I think St. John's clearly knows that. I'm not saying UNM is going to win, but I definitely think that this might be a better ball game, because even though you're going from Henderson to the Pit to Madison Square Garden, I don't think this team really cares. And I'm not trying to be cliche. It might be anytime, any place, anywhere that they'll do this, that they'll play anybody. And I'll be honest, and I'm not trying to be a homer here, and Rick, you can disagree or agree with me. There's really not a bigger stage than Madison Square Garden.
I would say it's the basketball mecca as far as most are concerned. Just I think of all the memorable games there: Reggie Miller, Spike Lee, Michael Jordan's games he had there. Kobe had a few memorable games in the Garden. Of course, the Knicks themselves. So yeah, there'll be a lot of eyes on them. They'll have
tournament.
Yeah, early day game. Boise State, I think, will be coming on shortly after, or maybe with a little bit left, against Clemson. So Mountain West will have a lot of eyes on the East Coast. Let's hope they can make the most of it. And I totally agree about the father-son sentiment. If he's saying it doesn't matter a little more, then he's not trying hard enough. It definitely does. You always want to beat your dad. I've had many battles, basketball court battles, football battles, everything battles with my dad over the years, and it just means more when you can beat him and stick it to him. And of course, as a grown man, it means a little more. And I've never beat my dad in golf, and I never will, and it still pisses me off. But there ain't nothing I can do about it. So let's hope, like to call him Pa Tino and Son Tino, put on a show for us.
I was at the Iona game, and I'm sure there were listeners that were at the Iona game. There was a buzz to it. You knew what royalty walked in. I talked to a player by the name of Jimmy Taylor who played with a year in the early 90s with Greg Brown, and he was from Kentucky, and he mentioned, man, when Pitino was in Kentucky, he couldn't go anywhere. He was Elvis Presley. He was a rock star. Look what he's done as being a phenomenal head coach. I'm sure he probably doesn't want to remember his time with the Celtics, but Kentucky, whatever happened at Louisville, who cares? They won on the court. They were good. Peyton Siva, he had Kevin Couric. He had some studs at Louisville about a decade ago. What he did at Iona, I was listening to something recently talking about what he did in Greece, and he just took over a Greek team, and I think they won a championship in their first year. That's the kind of X's and O's that Rick Pitino has. So I think for him to get Richard to get his dad at the end of 2022 in the Pit, even at Iona, with one of our best players now in Nelly Jr. Joseph, I'm sure that rang true. But this is, granted, they're both East Coast guys, but this is one of St. John's Arena. They play in, what is it called? It always escapes me. It starts with a C. Carneseca Arena in Queens, in Jamaica, Queens. And then they play at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I just don't think it gets bigger than this. I think that'll probably be the top non-story of the top non-NFL story of the day, is those two playing it. It's on FS1. Rick, any final thoughts on that? What you take away from St. John's?
Last comment. I just kind of wanted to share with people when you and I were speaking with Coach Pitino, I think he's really, what I got out of what piece of our interview where he was talking about how, getting fired at, in your early 30s or your mid 30s as a head coach, is pretty tough. And now he sees himself kind of back on the rise. And I see this really as his comeback tour. He just beat Cronin, I think the guy that gave him his first coaching job. Now it's on to beat Papa. I know how this gentleman feels. I was laid off last year in my mid-30s. Now I have a new job. It does feel like a rebirth when you're in a new situation and you're doing well. That's the only way I could ever relate to Coach Pitino. But I think he's seeing this kind of from a personal perspective a little bit. And that's fine with me because I think it's firing him up and focusing him and the team. And the other thing is just the leadership of Dent. Every time you hear a player talk about Dent, they refer to him as one of the best in the country, as we know, but they just all talk about following his lead, him showing them what they need to be doing. Cade Dotson was just really glowing about Donnie last night and his leadership. And I think being able to play with Donovan is great for Cade because he can spot up and shoot, as we saw, and he can also be the primary ball handler. So just very excited for this team going forward.
You mentioned, did you happen to watch any of the Duke Kentucky game the other night?
I can't stomach to watch Duke in the regular season. I don't watch Duke. I hate Duke.
Well, yeah, you're a UNC guy. Well, Kentucky, Lamont Butler transferred there. Andrew Carr transferred there. Kerr Krissa transferred there. I'm trying to think of the other guys. I think Brandon Garrison transferred there from Oklahoma State. You're talking about guys transferring there and playing basketball like they did, and they figured it out. Now, granted, Duke's young. I like John Shire, but John Shire had Cooper Flagg like isolated against guys who have like deep March experience. He fumbled the ball at the end. I thought it was a very, very epic game. I used to be anti-Duke up until John Shire. I've kind of changed my tune. If I had to pick a side, though, I'd always side with UNC or NC State on that. And this is coming from two St. Pius guys. Go ahead.
No, continue.
Yeah, it was a great game, but my whole point was that I think with UNM, you've got some of these guys that have been here a year and two. It's nice to see not just an abundance of transfers. I'm fine with picking out 1 or 2, 3 guys. And I think, what is it? CJ Nolan, Sacco, Atiki Aliatiki. It's 3 guys.
Philly.
Yeah. Phil Borovichinen. So maybe it's 4, but I mean, they're playing integral parts, and they've been here with guys that have been here a while. Kentucky's like what Mark Pope is doing there is a completely different.
Did you see the fans wearing the Pope suits with the Kentucky jerseys over? That's fantastic.
I did. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great.
Did you talk about the new Lobo Louis yet?
No, we haven't gotten into that. I don't know if any of the comments have got into that. There is a new Lobo Louis mascot. By the way, I didn't go to the game last night. I was going to. Jacob Neff, who joins the show, our jam is college basketball. I sat on my ass at his house and we watched all the games and we put the Lobo game on. And then they cut to 2 things. First off, Snake was there. Happy Snake's back with his wife, the Serpent Queen, as they were slithering around the depths of the pit. And then the new Lobo Louis mascot. I need to try to see if I can bring it up. It looked like an anime Lobo Louis. I don't know how to describe it. Our friend Stephen Pena posted on his Instagram. What did they do to I forgot what he said. Like, what'd they do to my boy or my guy or something? Rick, you're more equipped to handle this reaction than I am. I want your thoughts because, yeah, I don't know. Here we go. The eyebrows are scary. Why? I don't know what they did and why they did it.
I've been fortunate to spend a lot of time around Lobo Louis. I've been on the field a lot of games. No, I'm not, but I just really working at the games. And then one class we held a charity event when Lobo Louis actually showed up and walked around. That was fantastic. I do agree that Lobo Louis' suit needed to be cleaned up a little bit. It was a little ragged, maybe some misplaced hairs here and there. But the overall shape and style of the head is, I'm not really it's a big departure from the goofy, happy Louie with the tongue hanging out. I hate to see what they're gonna do to Lucy. She might look like a Street Fighter character. We don't know, but I mean, it looks newer, futuristic. I'm all for updating the suit and doing it, but I think they should have kept the older, goofier looking style, right, with the tongue hanging out.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
just me. This
Who's
one
the-
looks more to me. I've been saying it all day. It looks more like the Nevada Wolfpack mascot now than our own logo.
what's the oh my goodness, the guy with the eyebrows, and it's from like the 30s, not Charlie Chaplin.
Frida Kahlo.
Well, yeah, you could definitely look like Frida Kahlo. Boy, they mentioned the eyebrows. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can show it here.
He just looks angrier, and I don't know if that was the goal, but I think mascots are usually made for children and hugging. And actually, one time when I hugged Lobo Louie, those guys get a little hot. So parents, be aware. Lobo Louie sweats profusely from the pits. So when you go in for the hug, go a little lower. But I just think he looks a little angry for children. Look, I mean, he's mad about basketball.
I don't have any words. I'm trying to think.
He looks bigger. Like whoever's
Groucho Marx.
playing him is
That's it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Groucho Marx. That's was it. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head. He's like he needs like a cigar and like this. It's Groucho Lobo.
I kind of like it the more I see it. Maybe.
I mean, it's. Hold on, before we go to Nick Coppola in about 5 minutes. There you go.
Okay.
It's there you go, and then yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Groucho Marx. I mean, I don't know what to say. I saw it on TV and I looked at Jacob and I was like,
I was
hey,
confused for a while.
I was just like,
I thought I was like, has this been around a few games? Or?
I
think it was the debut.
It was the debut. I don't know why the hell they picked last night.
So where's Lucy? When they need to do like an unveiling of Lucy?
I hope she doesn't look like Groucho Marx too. I mean, what I don't. Yeah, that's not like kid friendly.
It's terrifying.
It's honestly terrifying. Jacob last night said they should change the number to 69. I mean, look at him. I mean, it's I don't have any words. I'm confused. Other than the Groucho Marx comment and the eyebrows. I'm shocked that there's not a press release on this.
There should have been a reveal.
Yeah.
Like put him in one of those rotating things with the camera that they have at the media days.
Yeah, and have him like bouncing a ball and doing this and giving the thumbs up and like bounding his chest.
Before we get to Nick, I wanted to mention the Bella Hines story. If you
go right ahead,
And, Bella Hines, top female basketball player in Albuquerque, playing for the Lady Wolves at Albuquerque Prep under Brandon Mason and crew. She's a 2025 LSU commit who just signed 2 other stars. I think they have the top recruiting class or one of the top. Just signed a multi-year NIL deal brought to you by her agent, David Cohen from Santa Fe, with none other than the Jordan brand. That's Michael Jordan brand. She's the first female to sign a high school player to sign a active high school player to sign a NIL deal. So very cool to hear that someone from Albuquerque is the first to sign with the greatest player of all time and my favorite sports brand of all time. So that was really awesome to see. And I told my daughter she only has about 11 or 12 years until she gets her deal so I can have all the Jordans that I desire. So.
There it is. When I saw that news today, there's the Forbes article. High school star at LSU commit Bella Hines signs deal with Jordan Brand. Matt Issa. Isa, hope it's one of them. I mean, that's quite a big deal, man. That's I'm wishing I don't know if I'm more impressed with that or more scared of the new Lobo Louie, but that Eric, I don't know what I can and cannot say, but this I'm going to go on the record. I mean, Eric knew him from Santa Fe, her agent, so we're going to try to get him on and talk about it. So I think that would be a very good get. Rick, I don't know if you're going to stay on or not or jump off, but do you have any final thoughts or before we end the segment, anything else? I'm glad you brought that up. I was completely caught off guard by Groucho Marx, Louis Marx.
I always have to be negative Nancy in some shape or form about the sports. And
welcome to the party, pal.
You know, the only thing I didn't like about the Lobos game last night from the Lobos performance is like chasing whatever record that was for Dent or having him sub back into the game at the end of the game when you're up double digits with 3 or 4 minutes left. The other team, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, had already subbed out their starters. There's no need for UNM starters to be in the game any longer. And I don't think, you need to be stat padding at this point in the season when someone just had an injury last game. So that's the only thing I didn't like. But I'm excited to hear your talk with Nick here and see how the Aggies are going to end the season. Oh, I do have one last thing I didn't get to mention was my trip to Hawaii and UNLV Rebels defeating the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors that I viewed in Honolulu there on the beautiful campus of Hawaii. Quite an experience since they're playing at a smaller field. There's a track around the field. So before the game, we were literally 10 yards away from Ricky White and those guys warming up. Got to watch the national anthem at field level, had a little flyover. Stadium got probably about 90% full by halftime. Lobo fans, if you're sitting there, you are going to be sitting in the direct sun, I think, if you're on one of the sides of the stadium. So be aware of that. But really cool. All the local people are great there. They have an area on campus you can walk through for pregame where they're doing giveaways, serving food and alcohol. You can go up to the bookstore and check out the campus. Lots of cool stuff there. So great experience for any Lobo fans looking to go to Hawaii. I would highly suggest it, not just for the football game, obviously for everything else there. But Ricky White did block another punt in that game. That was amazing to see. I wasn't overly impressed with the quarterback of Hawaii, Schrager. Very inaccurate. Did not have a whole lot of time to throw, but I think he was under 50% passing for the game. Really just hit a few big plays. Hawaii has some really good receivers, though. And their defense held up okay against UNLV, but they couldn't really hang with bad decisions, I thought, by coaching. So I think Hawaii will be a tough challenge, but I was already warning the locals there about Dampier, and I talked to some old man in front of the bookstore. And I know we're trying to go, Ryan, so I'll let you go. But
No.
I told him how good Dampier was, and he said, "Oh, I'll have to tell Coach Chang." I said, "I'm sure he's well aware, my friend."
Hey, let me get him on speed dial here. That's great. Throwing this out there because Dre USA have Bella Hines on the show. If you search YouTube, Road to the Pit, Ed and Nick Nunez talked to her earlier in the year. January, February, about her career. And I think at her time, her decision to go to LSU. So we have spoken to her. Nick and Ed have done a good job getting some high school stars on. Nick's a busy guy. It's something that they do together, father and son, as Santino and Patino. So they've done that. But we have had Bella Hines on this network, this show, and it was this year. And then talking about the recruits again, I don't follow high school basketball and football recruiting all that well. I mean, I know who Cooper Flagg was. I know who the two guys that came to UNM were. But Isaac Williamson is a 3-star recruited guard from Eastville, California. He did sign with the Lobos today, and there were 2 other signees. I'm not familiar with them. I know Rick has done some research on his end. That might be something we talk about later in the week. Rick, do you know anything about him before we get to Nick? You're on mute.
Wait, I know. Are we talking about which one are we talking about first, right?
Isaac Williamson. I mentioned him. Jacob had texted me. He was like, he's a 3-star recruit. Like, that's a good get.
Yeah, I think the thing that most people are scratching their heads about in both the signings is they're both about 6 foot or 6'1" tall. I believe the gentleman out of Texas was seen more as a defensive player at this point in his career. So yeah, interesting. They're signing 2 more 6-foot guards at this point. They missed out on some wing players in the earlier signing period, including Winters Grady and a big man, Jaden Leverett, who I was hoping they would get. So there's still a lot of time left. Patino's also been good at getting players in the portal and in the later parts of the portal. So I'm not worried, but they do need to probably get somebody at the wing positions down the road here.
Rick, I thank you for joining. Appreciate your insight. I'm going to take a quick commercial break. Nick Coppola has already joined us. Nick, I appreciate your patience. We'll be with you in a second. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Thanks to Matt Flores, the strength and conditioning coach for the UNM men's basketball team, Ed Nunez, and of course, the one, the only 2-time offensive state lineman for San Juan Mendoza, Ricky Thompson. Quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori. Probably the best thing I've seen today is Groucho Marx. Lobo Louie. That was fantastic. It's Lobo Louie, right? No, Louie Lobo. I always forget that back and forth. Hey, we're going to head down south to the guy who covers Lobo Louie's arch nemesis, Pistol Pete. His name is Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. Nick, I missed you last week. I hope all is well in southern New Mexico.
Yeah, all is well over here. It's nice to see you back. Albeit in the shadows, but it's nice. Yeah.
Don't ask what we do in the shadows. I need a new ring light. That is a great show, by the way, if you've never watched it. I just realized that New Mexico State plays Texas A&M Corpus Christi tomorrow night, so they must have stayed in the land of enchantment. We will start with football. Back to a normal schedule for Tony Sanchez and crew. I got off a plane, had to go buy a jacket because I didn't have anything that fit me anymore for me returning to the motherland. The 4-0 Big Red Hilltoppers. I love them. They need to wear that uniform all the time with just the eyes on the helmet. They rolled in. Say that again.
I said I love it. I love that.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. It's one of the best helmets
football this year, honestly, for being honest.
Say that again.
I said it's a top 10 helmet in college football this season, for being honest. I love it.
I'm going to raise you. I'll raise you one. I think it was number one. I wish they would wear that. I wish they would wear that all the time. Western Kentucky jumped out to a 24-7 lead at the half. NMSU fought back. At one point, it was 28-21, I believe. Showed a little fight, but the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky covered for me. I love my Aggies cover machine for the last 3 years. What did you take away from the game? I think obviously quarterback still, I know we're 10 games into the season. Quarterback is still a huge question mark. What did you take away from the loss at home to the Hilltoppers?
Yeah, I guess they've kind of figured out what they're going to do at quarterback going forward. Not that it's totally working out for them, but they've kind of figured out a two quarterback system between Santino Mariucci and Brandon Nunez. Mariucci was primarily in for passing plays, and he threw for all of New Mexico State's passing yards against Western Kentucky last week. And Brandon Nunez was primarily in for running plays. Not that Brandon Nunez wasn't passing the ball. I think he threw 3 passes, but he didn't complete any of them. And he also threw an interception, I believe, or maybe he threw. Yeah, I think he threw an interception. Yeah, he did throw an interception. Then he also fumbled the football, and so which brings us to the next point. They turned over the ball 5 times, and it's pretty hard to win a game when you turn the ball over 5 times, especially since Western Kentucky scored 20 points off those turnovers, and they only lost the game by 13. So you could create an argument that New Mexico State might have won the game if they didn't have so many turnovers. But yeah, so yeah, I think those were my main 2 takeaways. They've kind of figured out what they're going to do. That's at quarterback. The Mariucci Nunez thing is what they're going to do against Texas A&M this Saturday. And yeah, you can't really turn over the football. They finally got takeaways. They went all of October without 1 takeaway, and they ended up getting 2 against Western Kentucky. That helped them out a little bit. Obviously offset by the 5 turnovers they committed themselves, but that's promising for their defense. And obviously, if they're going to pull off a massive upset against Texas A&M, they're going to need takeaways. Rushing remained great. They had two 100-yard rushers in a game for the first time since 2016 with Seth McGowan and Mike Washington. Those have been the only 2 consistent playmakers on the entire offense this season. Now they face a very tough task in Texas A&M. I believe I think they opened up as 40-point underdogs from ESPN Bets this week. I don't know what the line is at now, but yeah, definitely a tall order for them this Saturday.
Well, unless you're Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, yeah, many teams cannot turn over the ball 5 times and still figure out how to win the game. Action Network consensus is 42. No, consensus is 39. It opened at 42. So people have bet on the New Mexico State Aggies. I will be in New Jersey tomorrow night. DraftKings, New Jersey, FanDuel, New Jersey, 39, 38 and a half. What I've seen out of this team, may God have mercy on their soul on Saturday. And I'm sorry if I offended any Aggies in this chat.
I agree.
I mean, the two 100-yard rushers, I mean, they have to be pleased with that statistic. I mean, they've struggled on offense this year quite a bit. Obviously, UNM made them look like the 07 Patriots. But I mean, that Tony Sanchez had to have been pretty happy about that.
Yeah, he was. They really do like to run the football. That's been kind of their offensive identity for the entire season. It's something that Tony Sanchez wants. He wants to be able to run the football well, and he wants to be able to call the majority of plays as run plays. That's what they feel like their main asset is, and they're correct in that. And yeah, considering that those two have been their primary playmakers this season, to see them both have excellent games, despite the fact that Mike Washington also fumbled the football at one point. Everyone was turning over the ball, I guess, in that game. But yeah, to see them see two rushers go for that much, especially since it really helped their offensive production out. Yeah, I mean they were pretty pleased with that.
Are you making the trek to College Station?
I wish I was. I am not. That'd be a really cool place to cover a game one day at Kyle Field. There's more attention on New Mexico State this week. Obviously, with them playing an SEC opponent, I got to talk to Boston American Statesman for a podcast they were doing. Texac has reached out to me today about some stuff and some intel on New Mexico State. SEC Network guys were sitting on the press conference Mondays, so I mean, there's more attention, and probably definitely gonna be more attention to what I do this Saturday in terms of coverage and this week, but. I wish I was. Maybe it's because high school sports are still going on in the playoffs, but I won't be going.
No, it's a pretty big deal. High school football is a pretty big deal in Las Cruces.
Yeah, it sure is.
Connor Wegman obviously got hurt. They're rolling with Marcel Reed. What do you know about this A&M team? Because you and I are having a conversation kind of here in the middle of November about a potential college football team. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. Of course, they're a college football team. Right. A college football playoff team. They get this is a tune-up game, I guess, for Auburn and Texas. They're at Auburn. I mean, I don't know, if they're going to look ahead to Texas, but that is they have renewed that rivalry for after Thanksgiving. I mean, what do you know about this Texas A&M team? And I saw you tweeting about the college football playoff bracket last night, which I don't think has solved things. It has just made things more complicated. I'm sure you saw that guy that tweeted out, I forgot it was McGrady or something, that Georgia is the only team that has beaten a ranked opponent out of like 5 or 6 teams. Texas hasn't beaten a ranked opponent. Penn State hasn't. I don't think Miami has. It's mind-boggling. But what did you make of the bracket last night?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the 12-team playoff period. If they were going to expand, I wish it was only just 6, kind of to keep, the playoff, still kind of not exclusive, I would say, but more ultra competitive, more of just the best of the best teams rather than just some teams that maybe can only go around deep or something like that. I just think 12 is too many. But from the committee's perspective, I don't even think they know if they are ranking teams based off whether they're most deserving or whether they're just trying to rank the best teams. And I don't think there's really a process that maybe goes into it. Like, SMU, I think they're way too low in the rankings. Their resume is similar to Texas, and they're 9 spots behind Texas. Not that SMU would beat Texas, but the fact that they've had similar resumes and the fact that SMU is so low is, I think, kind of a little weird, a little bit controversial. I believe. But yeah, I mean, I really do think it's just made things more complicated because you got Ohio State, who's a top 3 team in the country, but they have to be a 5 seed, and BYU and Miami get placed over them, despite the fact that both of those teams are not as good as Ohio State's, and Miami especially did not look good against Georgia Tech, but they're still a top 4 seed. And I also just believe, I don't know, it's just kind of lowered the stakes on some of the games between the top teams. Like last year, Ohio State versus Penn State, that would have been an elimination game, but this year both those teams are probably going to make it pretty easily. And, I know you get the argument, well, they got to play an extra game and they got to go through the top 2 seeds. I mean, 2 of the top 4 seeds right now are teams that are ranked lower than Penn State and Ohio State. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the committee, especially what they did to Florida State last year. Not a big fan of expansion. I just feel like there's a lot wrong with how we decide the national champion right now.
Nick, I appreciate it. That's one of the things I'm going to disagree with you on, because I think it's a good thing. However, I won't argue with you because my head wants to explode. I think what makes it great is the fact that it's almost I like the bowl games, and I think I'm going to be a little bit bummed this year in watching them, but it's just the way that the opt-out has happened. I agree. I think some of it's lost its luster. It almost feels like, Buffalo and Kansas City on Sunday that well, okay, you could possibly hit, Buffalo could still a 1 seed, but they could go on the road and beat Kansas City. I mean, this is one of the reasons I like college sports is the potential of Alabama going to Bloomington, Indiana.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun. Yeah, I mean the spectacle of home playoff games, which is something we never got with the 4-team, is going to be great. Home playoff games, that should have been happening all along. It's just, the fact that, teams are not going to be playing for seeding and, playing for all these different spots. And, there's bubble watches and things like that, kind of like it's basketball or something like that. I don't know, man. I just feel like, I feel like eventually down the road, we're going to look at some of these games that are elimination games or playing games or something like that and realize that there's maybe just lesser stakes because neither of those teams have a chance of winning the national championship anyway. And we didn't get that with the 14 playoff because, all four teams that were in the playoff, most years at least, all had a shot at winning the national championship. And so, and honestly, the playoff has kind of maybe led to those opt-outs that you talked about because, once the playoffs started, we had the whole concept mainly pushed by the network that owns the contract for the college football playoff of who's in, and that's what matters the most. If you're not in the playoff conversation, then you don't really deserve to be talked about or something like that. And we've seen that teams that kind of fall off the playoff radar, they just disappear, at least from the national landscape. And that's just become even more of a thing with the 12-team playoff, even though. I think college football is more about just who wins the championship. There's all these programs around the country. There's so many good stories. New Mexico State last year was one of the best stories in college football because that's a perennial losing program that won 10 games last year. But nobody cared because they're 5 and they're not even going to a New Year's Six bowl. So who cares? So I just feel like it's kind of watered down, or it will down the line water down the sports. And I don't know, man. I just think there was something in the past with college football, especially with the 14, maybe even the BCS that we just won't get back with this 12-team playoff.
I hear your argument. Yeah, I was super excited for it, and the more we're delving into it, it's kind of pretty frustrating. I like the idea of the home playoff games, and then I'm intrigued by Alabama and Indiana. I don't think we're going to probably get that. I think what Kirk Cignetti has done at
he's been fantastic.
Indiana. I mean, he said it. He wins everywhere. He has been fantastic. I have to ask you about this. I no longer subscribe to the Las Cruces Sun News. I'm sorry, my subscription ended. You did have a story on what are NMSU's football transfers doing now. Of course, there's one name that floats out there. His name is Mr. Diego Pavia. They're 6-4, I believe. What did you learn about him, and how we know how this season has gone for them. They're bowl eligible. I mean, that's probably all they can ask for. I'm trying to think of the last time Vanderbilt was bowl eligible. But talk about the transfers that they've lost and where is everybody now. And it's just not, Diego Pavia. I think, Miles Rouser is a name out there, if I remember correctly. But fill us in on your story on the Las Cruces Sun News about football transfers from New Mexico State.
Yeah, so there were many. That was actually the first time I actually sat down and really went through all the transfers and where they ended up and how they're doing and stuff like that. And they range from Diego Pavia, playing well and leading the team to bowl eligibility in the SEC to not playing at all, or they're at a D2 team or something like that. So it's a very wide range of what happened to all these guys that left from an incredible team that they had last year. You talk about Miles Rouser. He's having a good year for Arizona State, as is Keyshawn Elliott, who's another linebacker that also transferred to Arizona State. Eli Stowers, I believe, leads the Commodores in receiving yards right now, and that was their main tight end last year. One of their transfers that went to Vanderbilt, I believe his name, Macklin Young. He was one of the running backs. I think that's how you pronounce his first name. He had a good game against Auburn last year for New Mexico State. Apparently, he never showed up at Vanderbilt when he transferred there. Or at least that's what Vanderbilt tells me. He never showed up on campus, which is pretty interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. And so both of their leading receivers, Jonathan Brady and Trent Hudson, haven't quite replicated the success that they've had last year. Brady went to Cal. Hudson went to Mississippi State. Their punter also went to Mississippi State. And he's their backup punter, so he went from the starting punter in New Mexico State to a backup for an SEC team. But Star Thomas is having a good year for Duke. Sterling Webb has kind of been a rotational option for Missouri. Mekhi Miller has kind of filled the same role as a defensive back for Cincinnati. And then there's just I'm honestly I'm not going to go through everyone because there's about 40, 50 of them. But, I did get to talk to Jerry Kill because I'm doing kind of a look back at their Auburn win last year for my pregame feature this week. And he talked about Diego Pavia and just, he really feels like he's just grown in all aspects, not just as a football player, but he really feels like he's doing better just personally in Vanderbilt. Not that he wasn't doing well at New Mexico State personally, but he just really feels like he's grown in all aspects and things like that. And now he's suing the NCAA, so that's gonna be pretty interesting. I guess he wants to stay at Vanderbilt a little bit longer. He loves it so much that he's gonna sue the NCAA for it, which is interesting. But yeah, they did have a lot of transfers. It was pretty interesting going through it to see how everyone went, especially because they had a couple guys that transferred to Mexico State in the winter, but then they did spring practice and then they just left. Miles Nord was one of them. He transferred from Iowa State to New Mexico State, went through spring ball, and then decided to enter the portal again. And he ended up at Ball State, and that was not the only person that had a similar path. So yeah, it was very interesting. Obviously, Diego Pavia headlines the plethora of transfers, but some of them are doing well. Some of them are kind of just backups. Some of them went down a level, but are still doing pretty well. New world of college football, I guess, with all these transfers.
No, it is. I find that comment from Jerry Kill very intriguing, and I'm going to have to read this, that he feels that maybe not that he wasn't in a total bad place. And I'm trying not to twist your words here. Personally, he's doing better in Nashville. I'm sure a lot of people are doing better in Nashville as they are opposed to Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I'm sure people are, I'm not here talking shit about my home state. What do you know about? I was in Vegas. I didn't understand it. I don't follow it. Everybody assumed that when I was getting a journalism or history degree that I was going to become a lawyer. But what do you know about Diego Pavia suing the NCAA? Because I don't understand it.
Yeah, so apparently he is suing. He's trying to get more eligibility. And what he's arguing is that the NCAA using junior college years counting towards regular college eligibility violates antitrust laws. And he also believes, I'm reading a story on it that we ended up putting on the Sun News about it, that it hurts their opportunities for NIL and NIL compensation. And so those are his main arguments. Probably just wants more time at Vanderbilt, more time in college football. It's an intriguing case. The NCAA is probably in a weak position legally right now, which is how much power they're losing in the grand scheme of things. So I think he's got a bit of a chance. It's definitely an interesting case for sure. But yeah, that's basically his argument. He wants more college eligibility. He believes his JUCO year shouldn't count, and the fact that it does violates federal laws. And so we'll see what happens. He's been denied a temporary injunction. As part of that, and I think he's appealing that. But yeah, that's an interesting case. We'll see how it goes.
I'm going to say more power to him. That's just my opinion. I did like Sean Ryder's tweet about the graphics where it said sued. I thought that was a really good comment. I think you had interjected on there. I thought that was pretty funny. Switching gears, again, joined by Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. Nick Coppola, still can't get it right. Still don't know any of the basketball players on UNM's team's name. James Franklin had them in 3 straight bowl games. I didn't mean to interrupt that on there. I forgot about James Franklin. I don't know why. Maybe because he struck a chord with me when he walked away from the reporters asking about the 2 guys that were kicked off the team for sexual assault. New Mexico State men's basketball is coming off the WAC Conference USA Challenge. They beat the artist formerly known as Dixie State, the Utah Tech Utah Tech Trailblazers. Hey, Jason Hooten's got this team 2-0. What do you know about the Aggies thus far?
Yeah, I talked to him earlier today just about just how he feels about the team, how he feels about the team going into Corpus Christi and things like that. And they look better. They look more promising than they did last year. Tough to say if they'll still be a tournament team because I believe Conference USA is probably only going to be a 1-bid league. Just whoever wins the tournaments or the Conference USA tournament is probably going to be the team that goes. And who knows if it's New Mexico State right now. But they look better. They got a lot of new transfers. They're in a similar situation to the football team where they had to replace a lot of guys. But a lot of those guys look good. Zadie Jackson is a D2 transfer from West Georgia. He led the team in points against Utah Tech. Deontay Bostic is finding his own in the starting lineup. They got Peter Filippotovidi back. I will struggle with that last name. He missed the first game against Highlands and has missed the last month or so of practices with a back injury, but they got him back for the Utah Tech game, and they're really excited about him. And then of course Christian Cook is still pretty good and still balling, and he scored 21 against Utah Tech, and he'll probably be one of the best guards, if not one of the best players in all of Conference USA this season. And it's gotten the fan base excited too. I'll scroll on Twitter sometimes and just read some of the comments from New Mexico State fans about the team, and they're really excited about it. They believe that the team looks a lot more promising. They believe the team looks better, and they believe they'll have a better season than last year. And who doesn't know that for sure yet? Obviously, they're 2 games in, so it's kind of hard for him to make a judgment right now, nor does he really want to. But yeah, he's intrigued by what he sees. He believes Corpus Christi will have a tough challenge for them tomorrow evening. We'll see if they do. It's their only game this week. So yeah, we'll see. They're off to a really hot start right now.
Then they go to Dayton and then at UNLV. Obviously, December 7th, which I believe is a Saturday. It certainly is. They head up to Albuquerque, which is now only 1 game a year, which is very disappointing. Nick, appreciate you every week, and now it's a little bit more unless the basketball team's playing. I really got to thank you, man, for joining us as much as you have this year. It's a good insight to the team down south with the Aggies. Really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, and talk to you next week.
Sounds good. That was Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News. Always appreciate him coming on. I'm going to go to some of the comments before we get out of here. My flight isn't at the ass crack of dawn tomorrow. Thank goodness. I leave at 11:30. Let's start. Yeah, Ronnie Chavez, James Franklin had them in a bowl 3 straight years, 2011 to 2013 and 2016 to 2018. For some reason, that was a massive brain fart. I completely forgot that James Franklin came from Vanderbilt. John Romero. John, hope you're doing well. Eli Stowers going to the NFL, top tight end in Vanderbilt. NFL scouts are sky high on his abilities. I thought he was really good last year. I don't think a BYU, if they win the Big 12, should be top 4 ahead of Georgia or Alabama. If you win your conference, you get a bye in the college football playoff. So I believe the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, and the Big 10 all get a bye, and you get to play in one of the bowl games the weekend before Christmas this year. Or no, the weekend after Christmas. You don't have to play in the home game the weekend before Christmas. I'm looking at my nose and I realize all the weight I've gained. My nose just looks like it's gotten bigger and fatter. I don't know if you're undefeated. Colorado, the defense is much better. Their over-under on the season was 4.5 wins. They're in the top 20, 7-2. Their defense is much improved. The New York Football Giants are going to need a new quarterback because the Danny Nichols thing is not working out anymore. But only one less playoff win than Dak Prescott. I can guarantee you that the Aggies will win this week in football. I appreciate the optimism, John. Nick, Rick is always with the solid analysis. Nick, I don't know who you are, but thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Dre US. Yeah, we'll get to that. And again, Bella Hines, we had it on the road to the pit. If you go to our YouTube channel or just, I believe our podcast, Spotify, Google, I don't know. I'm not a podcast. I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. During the day, I watch a ton of bad movie reviews, and then I watch betting tips. So I'm always on YouTube. I don't really listen to podcasts anymore. It's usually in podcast form. But yeah, Nick and Ed had Bella Hines. What did they do to my boy? Yeah, if you hadn't seen it, Louis looks like Groucho Marx. Eric Markham, I'm out ski. Good night, fellas. See you next time. The new Lobo. Louis is the Antichrist. Jimmy H, we agree on something. I don't know what they did, and they will have to hear about it. You check out the new Sandia Sportsbook yet? No, I have not. It's usually Route 66 because I'm closer to it. And I like Route 66. I'm not. I'm a cheap date kind of guy, so I need to go out there. I've been to the restaurant, and I walked in to the only time I've been into the restaurant, and my friends were getting thrown out for being drunk. It's that if you've ever seen The Simpsons, where Bart's working at a brothel and Grandpa Simpson walks in and puts his hat on and walks right out. It's that meme. I walked in and walked right out. It was pretty funny. I heard Urlacher was there. I think I saw pictures of Brian Urlacher there. He's another guy that we would not be able to get on the show. I tried it to Daily Lobo many years ago. It was not, it was a big fat no. Eric Markham, you and I could both be using his training, referring to Matt Flores. Yes. I'm a fat 4-letter word that starts with F. I'm trying to watch what I eat. I was so busy today. I was trying to get a haircut before I get on the plane tomorrow to New Jersey, so I look like a decent human being, because I look like a character in a horror movie in an 80s. I look like a character in a horror movie from the 80s. My hair grew back so funky this time. It's like a mullet in the back and a fro on top. Very odd. Ronnie Chavez, X Factors on Sunday have to be a Tiki and Amzil. Amzil has played fantastic. He does not look like the player that started last season. 3 of 9, 1 of 5 from. Okay, it was a little rough, but he played well against UCLA. There's always more to the box score. There's always more. 7 rebounds, 2 assists. I'll take that. I'll take the 7 rebounds. Foul trouble if they fall on them. Told in the fort in the middle, we have a good enough guard play to play. I was not impressed with St. John's tonight. I do think they play very good defense. Again, I know who Devion Smith is. He's a very, very good point guard. They finished the game on a good run to St. John's tonight. Going back to the Jack should just put on a little Lobo Louis costume like Fraschilla did with his kid when he was here at UNM. That's right. I was just thinking of that. I agree, Ronnie. Yeah, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that. I'm surprised they didn't make an announcement of that. UNM must have known it looked like shit. I can't believe they did that. I love the old Louis Lobo. It's Lobo Louis. But by the way, I'm looking at my pennant in the back. Did anybody see the helmets for Saturday against Washington State? Love it. I think they should switch to that. Ron Harper's kid is on Rutgers. And I will see them Friday night. Really like the Lobo helmets on Saturday. I wish they would switch to those and wear those all the time. I absolutely hate the shield. I do not like it. It looks like something that you used in Madden to build a team back in the day. I don't like it. I'd even before the wolf to the side, the old wolf. Again, let's see that thing. I can't even point. I'm tired. I'm off to New Jersey tomorrow. Making a vacation out of it. I haven't been back since I moved back. Of course, that was my second home as a kid. My parents are from there. I grew up there. I didn't grow up there. I spent a lot of time there. I consider myself a New Jerseyite and a New Mexican. If any of my friends are listening, they'll tell me to shut up because I'm a New Mexican. So looking forward to it. I don't like to fly. You can make fun of that for me. I will be miserable. Usually I don't fly Delta. I'm on Delta. Flying 3 hours to Atlanta and 2 hours up to beautiful, sunny Newark, New Jersey. Be there Sunday for the game. Looking forward to it. What family do you have out there, Ryan? Well, everybody's dead. I never met either of my biological grandfathers, and this is not to be Debbie Downer time. I had a step grandfather who was a huge sports fan. Played minor league baseball. Served in the Navy during the Second World War. My mom and dad are both from a small town called South River. They grew up about 5 blocks away from each other. My dad was 5 years older than my mom. I've got a couple cousins from Staten Island. I'm going to name drop here Rick and I's friend Tim Chavez. He went from St. Pius, went to Seton Hall. And my friend whose nickname is Slater. Yes, after that Slater, Mario Lopez on Saved by the Bell AC. He now moved out there. Tim no longer lives there. He lives in the Bay Area. And then I still have a couple drinking buddies. I didn't let them know that I was coming out, but that I met when I moved out there. But my parents are from out there. I've got one biological aunt. She's from there. Family through marriage. I am staying with a non-family member, but she is like a family member. So her and I are taking her. I refer to her as my aunt. She's not my aunt. But she acts like an aunt. We're going to the Rutgers game. The Knicks play that night. I don't know if I want to pay for the NBA. I do love the Knicks. I have my qualms with the NBA. I think it's a real rat shit product. I think the NBA Cup is a joke. It's not hot take. It's like, I don't care. This time of year, I'm watching college football. I'm watching the NFL. I'm watching college basketball on a nightly basis. I'm watching Maction. And I do like hockey. So I have bigger fish to fry than the NBA. But I like to see what the Knicks are doing. I mean, every time I look up, apparently the Cavaliers are undefeated. I'm a Donovan Mitchell guy because he's from, I think he's from one of the boroughs. He's a big Mets fan. I was hoping he'd become a Knick. But I'm going off on a tangent here. I've got family out there. Going to see them, kind of laying low. Obviously have to go to a couple of key spots. Magnifico's Ice Cream on Route 18 in East Brunswick. Yes. Probably get some pizza. There's a place called Crispy Pizza in Old Bridge in Brooklyn. Grandma Pie, if you never had it, they don't have it out here. It's good. I probably will have to do gabagool, and I'm not Italian. But I cannot discriminate against the Italian, New Jersey Italians. I'd never watched The Sopranos until right before I moved out there, and The Sopranos was a great show. I love all HBO shows, except for what's the one with the dragons? I'm having a brain fart. Game of Thrones. I even watched Sex and the City. I love The Righteous Gemstones right now. I absolutely love it. Anything Danny McBride. I mentioned Magnifico's Crispy Pizza, Keyport Fishery. I don't think I'm going to. I think Ye Cottage Inn was destroyed in Sandy, but that's near Point Pleasant, Seaside Heights. And see, the shore is a great place until those fucking people ruined it. And most of them aren't from New Jersey; they're from Rhode Island. If you ever find yourself out there, it is great. I've never been to Atlantic City. Maybe I'll take the train down there. Much better comment tonight than Jimmy H telling me to go screw myself. Safe travels, Ryan. Thank you, Ice Ice Baby. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Hope you're recovered from COVID. I couldn't think of anything to rhyme with that tonight because I can't spit bars. We will be doing a show. I got to talk to the guys, but I will still be coming to you live. I will still be joining the show live Saturday morning for the Morning Howl. It'll be obviously 11 a.m. my time. And the football game starts at 9:30 Eastern. So I'm very happy to have that. And then I got to turn around and get to New York, which is not hard to do. I just have to sit on a train, on Sunday morning. So, going to do that. We'll preview that game. Number 18 in the country, number 19 in the country. They were 14-point underdogs, UNM, and is now dipped to 10.5, which somebody knows something. I know Washington State doesn't really play defense, and I think this might be their biggest test towards the end of the year. Sorry, I was reading a tweet. Looking forward to that game. I think it's very interesting. I'm still at a crossroads with this Lobo football team. I feel that they had the potential to be 7-5. They certainly should be 6-4. You're 2 games and 27 points away from Jimmy H. Have you heard? I gotta tell you something. Have you listened to me shit on the Giants and the Knicks? And for a brief period this year, I didn't have to shit on the Mets. It's what I do. And I have a degree from UNM, and it is my First Amendment right. For a company I own, I can pretty much, I can't say what I want, I mean, without being criticized, but it's freedom of speech. I'm high on this basketball team. I'm still at the crossroads where I was going with the football team. I think 6-4 would be great, and I do feel bad for a friend, Jeff Symbieta, who was probably looking at having a UNM football team in the New Mexico Bowl. I don't know where he's going with that. I had a little bit of conversation with him there. Obviously, they had to be in the consideration. They are toilets. The Lobos are not. I mean, I don't know what you call getting bent over by Clemson in the first round of the NCAA tournament last year. But yeah, I'm too tired to argue with you, so I'm definitely turning off the comments. I want to appreciate everybody watching, doing the same thing as we have every week. Would be doing it next week. I'll just be coming to you live from Jersey for a couple of episodes, 3 or 4. I will be at the game at Madison Square Garden. And the one thing I do want to mention, UNM alumni that are going to the game, I should have looked it up, Association St. John's. I know there was a tweet. It's a bar called on 33rd there. Here it is, and I'm going to show it on the economics, November 16th. Here it is. Stout NYC. Patino versus Patino in the Garden. I did not see the shirt. Very cool. It's on 133rd. If you literally walk out of Penn Station and you make a right, it is right here. So if you walk out of the Garden, West 34th, the Macy's is right across the other street. I may have been in there once. I don't know. No, I haven't been in there. Looking forward to that. I'm going to be in the city early. It's only about if I get an express train, it's about 45 minutes into the city. So Stout NYC is the UNM alumni gathering before tip-off at noon Eastern. Go there. I just Googled UNM Alumni Association, and they have all the events there. So there you go. I wanted to throw that out again because I think that's very cool. I know several people going. Again, my name is Ryan Tamori. This is the Pit Press Live. Appreciate everybody watching. Have a safe night. Have a safe weekend. I will talk to you from the East Coast. Appreciate UNM men's head basketball coach. I'm giving him a lot of credit. I'm sure you appreciate that. UNM men's strength and conditioning coach. UNM men's basketball team strength and conditioning coach Matt Flores. Nick Coppola from the Las Cruces Sun News, as always. Appreciate all the guests. Ed Nunez, Rick Thompson.
Richard.
Did I say Nick Nunez? Ed Nunez. Rick Thompson. I'm doing it
Richard.
again. My business partner, Eric Moulton, Jacob Neff, Nick Nunez. Appreciate everybody. For those that couldn't join. Everybody have a safe Wednesday night. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything I wouldn't do or that I would do. And enjoy your Thursday and Friday. And hopefully people actually turn out for the Washington State game, 7:30. I know under the lights, it's dark, probably a little bit cold, but kind of a big game this year. I think it means a lot. It would probably save a lot from Wyoming and Montana State if they can beat a ranked team. Once again, my name is Ryan Tamori. Everybody have a great rest of your week. This is the Pit Press Live.